What's up? My name is Casey Budge. This is the Off Season Podcast. And tonight I have a bunch of awesome guests for you guys coming on to talk about stuff that they know way more about than I do. They're more qualified to talk about it than I am. So we're going to jump to that. But first off, thank you to everyone who's been listening to the episodes lately. I really appreciate everyone who's taken time to message me and stuff. It's been really cool to see all the support from this, and I wish that I could post daily like this all the time, but I just don't have that much to talk about all the time when the NFR isn't going on. So we're going to go back to a more regular schedule after the NFR is over, but I wanted to do this while this has been going on. So we're going to start off in the NFR. It was a pretty fun round last night, and we're going to start off with the team roping, and we're going to jump over to our expert team roping analyst, Wilbur. How's it going, dude?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. So why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about how the round went last night, who won, and a little bit about that.
Well, last night we finally saw Caleb Driggers and Junior Nogueira connect. They were 3-7. They split the round with Dustin Agasquiza and Levi Lord, another team that's been having some issues. We really saw from Caleb Driggers, he really made a quarterback run right there. He came out, spun the steer, he knocked the barrier. And that's kind of the big deal, that all of these headers that you see spinning good consistent steers in that building are hitting the barrier every time and getting back up the pen. Those guys were both 3-7. Dustin Agasquiza finally tied one on. Levi Lord, he just did what he does to the backside, you know. We also saw T. Wade and Wesley Thorpe go out of the average last night. You know, I don't think it's going to hurt them a whole lot. They're still 8th in the average because they're the fastest on 2 coming into round number 4, but it did drop them down. If those other 7 teams ahead of them go out and knock every steer down, they can't beat them. We also saw Coleman Proctor and Logan Medlin go out of the average. That's another team that's been doing really well, that kind of came out real strong in the first 2 rounds and went out last night. We saw Clint Summers and Jake Long. They made a heck of a run last night. They finally connected. JC Aquo and Buddy Hawkins. JC seems to have gotten it figured out. The first round, he was kind of off the barrier, kind of got strung out, sent it over the steer's head, and then the past 2 nights, he's really hung it on him for round money. And we saw Buddy Hawkins last night connect on the backside. I think if we see those two connecting a whole lot more, it's going to be electric.
Yeah, I like to see the guys who are going at it for round money. It's always cool to see guys go on and try and win the average, but I kind of like seeing some of those guys go after those round checks, because like Marty Yates is doing that. He's going after round checks now, and it's fun to watch him roping the calf roping. We saw Driggers make a horse change. Are there any other horse changes that you know about?
I don't think so. I think Dustin and I think pretty much everyone else is on the same horse. Obviously, T-Wade's going to stick with the Horse of the Year spur. And then Heisman's big in that building. He's the superstar in the Thomas and Mack under Coleman Proctor there. On the heel side, I mean, big story there is Wesley Thorpe riding Patrick Smith's heel Horse of the Year. You know, that horse just makes heeling so easy. He's never in a bad spot. He always gets Wesley to the feet and shuts down a run fast. So I think that the only horse change that you're going to see is going to be Caleb Driggers, and that's just because he's going for rounds now, and he's trying to go fast, and he's got a horse that he's comfortable doing that on.
That's awesome. Well, we'll move on to the bareback riding, and we saw some good rides there last night. Who ended up winning the bareback riding? I didn't actually see who won it.
Jess Pope ended up winning it. He was 89.5.
Heck yeah,
On a
Bailey's
Pete Carr
got
horse.
Jess Pope on her team.
My team that Casey.
So do I. Robot.
Yeah. You guys are hoping to see a few more Macarenas before the NFR gets over?
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully we see a big one right at the end of the average points.
That'd be pretty fun. He's good at the average. That's kind of his game. Is he's won 3 of the last 4.
Yeah, it's his game definitely. Yeah, that's one of the big reasons I picked him. Is he's real good at keeping his hand closed, making real consistent rides.
Yeah, I like that about him too. What do you have to say about the bareback riding, Kate?
Rocker on my team, and in round number 2, he got knocked out about 4 seconds into his ride and tore up his hand a little bit. So I was really excited to see him keep his hand closed and end up 4th in the round last night. I'm glad that he's okay and glad that he's going to continue to ride. And so I was excited to see him. Another one that I was so excited to see last night was Cooper Cook, Idaho Cowboy that we're friends with. So yeah, he just really connected and opened up on that Calgary horse last night and ended up 2nd in the round. So that was really cool too.
It was really cool to see. I'd like to see Coop ride a few more like that, and not only one of my buddies do well, but also get my team some more money. Good things to root for. Yeah. Well, where do we want to go next, Cater?
I think that we should just roll right down the line to the next event.
Well, the steer wrestling was kind of a dogfight last night.
Yeah, they came alive in that pen of steers and threw a couple under 4 seconds. So it was good to see. And good to see Will Loomis continuing to be aggressive and competitive and win round number 3.
Yeah. Your guys who have done well continue to do well. That's been a trend in a couple of the events, and the steer wrestling is definitely one of them. Have really, like you said, came live, and this was a little bit better pen of steers than they've had the last 2 nights. So they were able to make a lot more sub 4 runs and go at it.
Yeah. We're still waiting for Tyler Wagisback to hurry up and make a run to place him get him a check. He was down there a little bit ways with a 6-6 last night. So I'm hoping tonight he, pins the barrier and gets after one and gets down on one a little bit quicker.
Yeah, but let's all hope for that. We all like to see the WAG do good, especially after scraping and clawing to even get to the NFR this year. I'd love to see him win a little bit more money and win my team a little bit more money.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, on to the saddle bronc riding. Zeke Thurston continues to clean house with the saddle bronc riders. He has absolutely been whooping everybody's butt there, down and back.
Yeah, he has. He has just really been competitive and won round number 1 and then won round number 3 last night. So I think that we can expect him to just do what Zeke Thurston does and continue to win a lot of money.
Yeah, Zeke was...
And stay in the average fight, too. He's just right there, top of the average as well.
Yeah, he doesn't really get bucked off. He's another one of those that doesn't really get bucked off of a lot of horses. So he's been very consistent thus far. Like they said last night, I like any matchup that has Zeke Thurston on one side or the other of it. And I'm going to hopefully continue to keep doing that.
Yeah, and I think what kind of is setting Zeke apart right now is he's marking every horse out. Like, there is no question in any of the judges' minds, they're still above the shoulders every time he nods his head. And I feel like that's just getting him really rolling on those rides to where he can pick up good timing and get in rhythm and make it just look like poetry.
That's true. That's why saddle bronc riding is my favorite and a lot of people's favorites, is because it does have that poetry to it, that rhyme to it. And Zeke does such a good job. I'm sure that old Mark Gilkerson up at Sheridan is proud of one of his best students, having just how well he marks out those broncs. Don't leave any question in those judges' minds whether or not you're marked out. Well, do we want to move on to the calf roping?
Yeah, let's talk about the tie down roping. Remind me who you have on your tie down roping team?
I have Haven on my tie down team. Yeah, who do you have?
Who do I have?
Marty Yates.
I have Marty Yates, who is out of the average now, so we're expecting him to come alive and tie one a little quicker. He was 7-9 last night and just out of the money, but I'm looking for him to, now that he's out of the average, just come alive and tie some really quick.
Yeah. Well, when we're talking about the tie down roping, there's really only one name that we can continue to say, and that is Riley Webb. He has just absolutely taken over and continues to dominate. I mean, he's just high and so smooth, so correct. It's going to be hard to beat him. His calf went left on him, I believe, last night, and he still stuck it and got off and tied clean, and he's such a strong flanker. I mean, he is just the whole package put together right there. It's going to be really hard for one of these guys to come up and beat him.
Right. Yeah. Last night it was fun to see him just go on the offense a little bit and hurry through his run and just stay so smooth. A lot of people in the tight on will get in a hurry and bobble a tie, but he just stayed so smooth through his run. And then to see Ty Harris come out and just knock down a 6.9, just step up the game a little bit more and win the round was cool.
Yeah. And Shad getting a little bit closer or getting a little bit further ahead in that average race. He came in with 8.3 seconds and won him. Was good enough for a fourth place check. So keeping his hopes of taking one or maybe two gold buckles home at the end of the week. So we're going to keep an eye on that race. But I think we should move on to the barrel racing and talk a little bit about the absolute robot that is Sister. I mean, she's just robot confirmed. She ran the exact same time as she did the night before to win, and she's just so talented. And it wasn't the same run either. Like she very nearly knocked the first barrel coming into round 2, and she had a perfect, like a textbook first barrel last night. So it was cool to watch her come in
Right.
and improve there and see some of these other girls struggle. That's where Sister really thrives. Is she is just so consistent.
Right. Haley said that after round 2, she was going to make a couple adjustments. She wasn't quite comfortable with how close to the first barrel Sister was, so they went back to the practice pen and fixed that. And it just shows how good of a trainer and jockey Haley really is, that she was able to make those adjustments midweek and come back and make such a smooth run in round number 3.
Yeah, Haley is an absolute athlete as far as it goes to go along with her horse, and she's a horseman too. So she knows exactly what her horse needs and exactly the kind of adjustments and tuning that her horse need to be right there and right.
Right. And I don't think we can talk about horsemanship without talking about Lisa Lockhart. Lisa Lockhart is one of my favorite horsemen in this race. She rides so consistently and so correct. And last night she knocked a barrel, as did Emily Beisel. So I'm looking for them to, now that they're out of the average, maybe put the pedal to the metal a little bit and maybe make another horse change. I don't know what we'll see from them tonight, but I'm excited to see the fire light a little bit there for those two.
Yeah. Do you know how many barrels they knocked last night? It was like 5 or 6, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had a lot of knocked barrels last night. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 or 6 knocked barrels last night.
Yeah, that's crazy. You don't normally see that many barrels get knocked until some of the later rounds. So it was kind of weird to see a bunch of those gals go out and knock one all in the same round. There must have been something a little bit different about that ground or something like that, which here I am sounding like a barrel racer myself, blaming it on the ground.
Right. Yeah, after round number 2, I know they made a couple adjustments to the ground because they had that one horse slip on the third barrel. So I don't know if it changed how the horses felt in that arena or what, but they did see a few more barrels go down.
Yeah. Well, do we want to move on to the bull riding, or do y'all have more to talk about as far as the barrels go?
That's all that I have. I'm excited to see Sister run again tonight.
I'm excited to see Sister continue her absolutely dominating performance. She's going for her 5th world title, so that's historic range, and we're all excited to see that. All right, well, on to the bull riding. Not as many people rode last night. We've been riding a lot of bulls in the last couple of rounds, but not as many people rode last night.
Yeah, they called that the TV pen last night. Yeah, so they called that the TV pen last night. Not quite the eliminator pen, but one that a lot of people got bucked off on. Someone that I was not expecting to get bucked off last night was Josh Frost. They had that half-cocked bull and Josh Frost as their pick to win the round last night. And I was really, really shocked to see him fall off just a couple seconds out the gate.
I was too. That was a really tough bronc. But if you looked at the stock scores when they were riding every bull in there last night, all but a couple had an average stock score of 43 or 44. So that was a really tough pen of bulls, not broncs. and they and they were all tough to ride, and that's continuing to be true with the half cocked horse. So or bull, my goodness, I
Yeah.
really want them to just be riding all horses. I I don't know that anyone should get on a cow at all.
I understand. Yeah. Tristan Hutchings is someone who continues to make money for my team. He was second last night in the round, gathered up a good check, and on a hard bowl, not one that was easy to ride, one that spun away from his hand and then into his hand and was hard to ride, but he was number 2 in round number 3, number 2 in round number 2, and then number 4 in round number 1. So he's doing really well in the average. In this group of a lot of rookies, there's 5 rookies in the bull riding, and he's been to the NFR. This is his 3rd NFR now, and so he's a little bit more of a veteran with only 2 NFRs under his belt, but he sure is riding like one and keeping himself in the average race really well.
I know. It's so funny that Josh Frost and Tristan Hutchings are the veterans in the bull riding now, because it was 2 years ago that they were both the rookies, like the fresh little rookies coming in here and riding with all the Sage Kimseys and all of them. So
Yeah, this is Josh Frost's 5th NFR and Tristan's 3rd. So those two being the veterans in this race is pretty hysterical.
Well, last thoughts on the NFR.
We have a new Miss Rodeo America who was crowned today. Miss Rodeo South Dakota is the new Miss Rodeo America, and I am so excited for her reign. There were a lot of really competitive girls. I think this is one of the more competitive races that I've seen. There were 5 girls who I thought were very deserving of the crown, and so I'm excited that South Dakota is having the Black Hills Gold crown again.
That is very exciting. That's a fun race that I definitely paid attention to all the way through. It was a real nail biter there at the end.
You watched all 4 hours of the fashion show, and
Man, you know every speech. I could recite them word for word by the end.
You know he had it up on his phone as he's like, as he's doing his vet stuff. He's palpating mares and he's got this phone up.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
really
I know it. Don't deny that you like it.
He's got his. He needs to keep up his girly rapport so that he can fit in with all his coworkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, while I was working last night, Bailey ran away to Fort Worth.
Okay, to be fair, I've been working for a month straight at this same show, so
I'm gonna get beat after this.
Call the abuse hotline.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna call Queen Mom on you.
She sounds scary.
She is scary.
I mean, she can't really talk or hear
or see
anything, but
she's scary.
She's got them queen powers.
She really does have them queen powers. Well, Bailey got a chance to go and watch the finals of the NCHA Futurity, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about the winner and some of the other standout runs that she saw last night.
Yeah, so I've been there all month because we showed in the non-pro, and then we had some yearlings that sold. But going into the finals last night, we had a lot of interesting pairings. We had both the Coopers made it, so father-son, both Michael and Lance. And the cool thing about them is they were back to back, so Lance had to follow up his dad, which I'm sure couldn't have been super, or it was probably made him nervous, I would say, because Michael's been in it for a while, and I think this is Lance's first finals in the Open. Won't be his last. The guy shows amazing. He had a really good horse under him too. Late Night Call Girl she was one of the standouts going through all the rounds. And then we had a lot of chartiers. So we had Colin and RL. And then we had Grant Setnica was up there. We had both Cinch and Adon Benuelos. Wesley Gallion was in there again this year. He was in there last year. And I think Wes won it last year, if I'm not mistaken. But he was in there on a Rebel this year. And then Morgan Cromer and Toastin Peterson, Armando Costaneto. I think that was, I don't know if it was his first finals, but newer to the finals. And then Matt Gaines was in there on 2, and Shane Carlin, Clint Allen.
Wait, Shane made it?
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. Shane used to work for our uncle. I didn't know that Shane made it.
Yeah, he, I can't remember what he marked, but it was kind of average run.
Yeah.
But still amazing making it to the finals. I mean, the bottom horse in the finals is taking home $30,000, so you can't be sad about that.
Yeah.
And then Russ Westfall was in there, William Cowan, and think that about covers everybody. Oh, and Austin Shepard. And so Austin was actually the first one out in the first set, marked 24. He was riding a Rolls Royce, and this horse was down on his knees, I think 3 times, and kept just perfect time. Then his last cow he cut for dang near 40 seconds. So I think he marked a 24, and he was reserve. So he kind of came out with a vengeance there, and Austin shows impeccably well, and couldn't happen to a nicer guy. He had I think it was last year or during the year this year, he had kind of a wreck with one of his horses in the show pen. His horse just fell and he got hung up, and Clay Johnson was there to save the day on that one.
Which Clay Johnson's the coolest.
Clay Johnson is phenomenal. So Clay, he helps with every event, and he's in there turning back for almost every person, settles all these herds, and you like this guy's there for everything, and he's just an incredible horse trainer, and him and his family are just great people. They're Clay's coolest. I saw him jump into the VIP box yesterday from the top.
That's awesome.
It was pretty great.
That sounds like a Rocker Steiner story.
Except it's a Clay Johnson story.
Well, yeah, but have you heard the Rocker Steiner story about him jumping off at the top of the building at Pendleton?
Oh, yes.
That he told on Dale Brizzu's podcast? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it was quite as extravagant as that, but it was still a pretty big jump for Clay. So, but yeah, Clay was in there, I think, turning back for almost everybody. Him and old Art. If you don't know, Art is Hoddish's brother. The turnback horse that Clay rides is Hoddish's brother. So I think that's pretty cool. You've got like one of the top cutters and one of the top turnbacks that are brothers. And then pretty average scores from Cinch and Russ and Matt. Morgan Cromer came out and marked, I think it was a 19, and she showed really well too. She made it in on one. She was in the semis with 2, but only made it in on this one, who was a Raising the Cash. Raising the Cash had a really good year on a side note because he had 5 in the finals last night. That's pretty crazy considering there's only 20. And then let's see here. Toastin had a pretty good run. Michael and Lance, they both showed really well. Just again, like no crazy scores for them, just really average final scores, high teens. Same with RL, same with Armando. Settle for set 2. I think the big ones that we were going for in here, there is a lot of Raising the Cashes in this set, and then a lot of Stevies. Stevies are really hot this year.
Stevies are hot this year. Everyone likes a Stevie.
Everyone likes a Stevie. And then a Bad Boon Horizon. So, like, we were, secretly, not secretly, I guess, kind of voting for Colin Chartier. We've done a lot of work with Colin this year, and we were really hoping that he would be able to go and show off this horse that he has. It's a Bad Boon Horizon. But he lost his first cow. It just kind of ate him for lunch. He just had a quick miss, and it just slipped right by him. But the cows last night were overall a lot better than they were in the semifinals. The semis took out a lot of good horses. But the big one in the second set, which ended up being the champion, was Kenny Platt. He was riding a hashtags out of Mare by Hottish. Too Hot to Tag was this horse's name, and threw down a 27, and just incredible run. But I think the coolest thing was his son was up in the top, and he was cheering him on. And when he saw what he marked, this kid had his fist in the air and just tears running down his face, and was so proud of his dad. And then when they had like the post-win remarks, I guess, they're interviewing him, and they interviewed his kid with him, and they asked, what he thought, and he said, I just always knew that one of these days my dad was going to win the Futurity. And it was the cutest thing. He was just so pumped for him. So you got to love that.
Well, Kenny's been training some awesome horses for years and years, and he's been due.
I think his kid was right on. Like one of these days it was going to happen. And then, Wes was in there on a good one. And just didn't quite mark that 27 that he needed. And then Adon Benuelos was the last one in the set on a Raising the Cash, another one.
Which is always a dangerous spot to be.
I think everybody kind of had their phones up video, and they were like, here, if anybody can beat it. Like Adon and Wes were the last 2, and they're like, okay, we better watch these guys close. And cows just kind of played out on them. They were trying to go for the gold there and just didn't quite get the runs that they were wanting. So But again, amazing to make it to the finals. I think there was like let's see here, $2,344,820.27 paid out last night, and in total, the bottom person that was in the finals is taking home 30,000. The top person is taking home $337,730.21.
Not a terrible payday there at the Futurity.
Definitely not. And I think that includes like the 10,000 that they're taking home from the semis, jackpot, premiums and things like that.
As well as any incentives or
Any
anything.
incentives, yeah. I think Valley Equine had an incentive.
Brazos always has incentives.
always has incentives. There was one more than I saw yesterday. I thought that somebody took home, but those are the two big ones, I think.
Does Stevie have an incentive? I can't remember if he does or not.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
He did there for a while, but I can't remember if he does now or not.
I don't know. And I don't know if any of the studs going out of Brazos is now Valley Equine.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of the studs going out of there have incentives, but if they do, or if they don't, maybe raising the cash on investing one.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, Stevie's and Bad Boon Horizons have been really big for the last couple of years, and they both had a couple in there. Actually, I think there might be only one Stevie. No, a couple Stevies, three Stevies that made it, and 1, 2, 3 Bad Boons made it. But those and raising the cashes were the big ones this year.
Yeah. It's crazy to see hashtags win it. Everyone had kind of written hashtags off as not being worth a dang, but it's cool to see some of his offspring actually compete.
Yeah, that took everybody by surprise. That horse is fantastic, but I think everybody kind of wrote hashtags off, especially this past year after he has like a gene disorder.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, like we were riding a 3-year-old this year by hashtags, a big pretty black mare, and she was fancy. She wasn't just throwaway trash. Didn't end up showing her this year. We just couldn't get somebody to be able to go ride her in the show pen. But I mean, a fancy mare. So like I definitely have hope for him in the future. Hopefully he can get some better offspring out there. Maybe he just didn't hit the mark the first couple years with his produce.
Yeah, it's hard to find the right mares to breed to, even when you are one of those top name studs.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it takes some trial and error trying to get it figured out.
Definitely. Well, I think that's all we have tonight. Do you have any last remarks to say about the Futurity?
I don't think so. It was a good year. We were hoping for that. The sales were pretty down as far as prices go, just kind of across the board. Kind of a weird year for the market, but who knows what that'll look like next year. So,
well, I think we're
gonna I think anytime there's an election year, it makes things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry.
The Snapple bit was the same way. Like the market for Snapple bit was pretty far down too. So I think it's just an uncertain kind of time.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Wilbur and Kate, for chiming in with you guys' expert testimony, and Bailey. Thank you guys.
Yeah, always fun. Thanks for doing it.
Anytime. This has been the Off-Season Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, give us a rating, all the things. We will come back with another episode tomorrow night, and we'll keep it rolling right on through the rest of the NFR.